Okay, good. So it has started recording. So welcome back. Uh, so we will continue with Rees representation theorem. We will almost finish the proof, except the last step. Everything we will do today. Okay, and then the last step we will do in the next class, which is the most important step as the last step. And so yeah, routine things. We will do everything as in Rodin today. So let me start sharing the screen. And please confirm that you can see.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today is lecture 8 and we will go through the remaining steps except the last step of the proof of Rees representation theorem. Okay. So last time we did 4 of the 10 steps. And can you quickly recall the 4 steps? At least something about each step? Maybe the title of each step? What all did we do last time? What was the first step?
Subadditivity.
Subadditivity. So mu of union is less than or equal to summation mu of EI. Where EI disjoint there? Or no need?
No, not
No
No,
need. No need. Okay. And what was step 2 about? What was the key word?
compact.
closed.
Compact sets.
Closed.
Step 2 was something about compact sets. We proved two things in step 2, that compact sets have finite measure and mu of k is infimum of lambda f k plus
Lambda.
f. And third step was, what was the key word?
Open sets.
Open
Open.
sets. And what was the statement? What was the main result? Open sets are
Inner regular.
inner regular. Open sets are inner regular. And step 4 was additivity, no?
On MF.
Only on MF. And step 4 had also one last line which is going to play a crucial role in many steps today. Can you recall that? So you took EI to be disjoint and you took union EI, and we proved additivity if all these EIs are in MF. And we concluded one more thing, no? What did we conclude about this disjoint
Yes, sir.
union? Yeah.
Closed under
If
con.
a measure of union is finite, then that union also belongs to MF.
It's an MF. So this part of step 4. So many times when I say step 4, I may have this also in mind. We will see. Okay. So this also will play a role. And in step 1 and step 4 had some commonalities, right? Step 1 we argued with open sets, and step 4 we argued with compact sets, right? And step 1, the crucial point was mu of V1 union V2 is less than or equal to mu of V1 plus mu of V2, which we use partition of unity. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in this step, the crucial point was mu of K1 union K2 is mu of K1 plus mu of K2 when K1 and K2 are disjoint. Okay. So basically, it's a roundup of what all we did last time. So we did subadditivity, compact sets, open sets, and additivity, but only in MF. And today we will do 5 more. And then how many will remain? One more will remain. And what is the last
Only
step? Last step is the most important step, which is that lambda f is
integration over
Integration of
X,
integral f d mu, where f belongs to
CC.
CCX. Okay. So we will do all the remaining steps, 5 more. And so first, step 5, I have given a word which will tell us how to remember this. Sandwiching. What is a sandwich? All of you know, right? What is a sandwich?
Yes, sir. Between something.
Yeah, between two bread slices, you put some vegetables or whatever you want, right? Cheese
Yes,
or
yes.
chutney or. Have you heard of chutney sandwich?
Yes, sir.
Where did
Yes,
you
sir.
see that? It's not so common, no? Or is it?
Sir, put chutney in between sandwich so it
True,
get
true. But have you
crispy.
seen it? Have you seen people doing it? Of course, in theory, you know what it should be. In practice,
We have done, sir,
okay.
because of emergency. We
Okay,
will do it.
fine, fine, okay. So I was a postdoc in TIFR, and in the canteen there was actually something called chutney sandwich, where they actually put chutney in sandwich. Anyway, so sandwiching in MF. What are we going to sandwich? So given E in MF, we are going to sandwich. What will be the bread slices where this E will go in?
One compact set and
One
one open
compact
set.
down and one open above, and you are going to press it. So what is the meaning of pressing it? V minus K is
Measure
very
of
small. Okay, so V
yes.
minus K, the measure is arbitrarily small. Given epsilon, I can make it less than that. Okay, so this is the next step, and let us do it. So what we know is, for any set this is true, right? This was a general definition. So any set, this is how we defined mu e. Mu e is infimum of mu v, v coming from above. And E belongs to MF, and therefore, so the above one is called outer regularity, right? E is outer regular. And because E is in MF, we have the opposite also, which is inner regular. So what does that mean? It's also approximated by compact sets from below. Agree? So both these we have, and therefore what can you say? About mu e and given an epsilon, you can make two statements. One statement from the first one and one statement from the second one. Our standard argument. We have used it so many times. Mu e is the greatest lower bound, so mu e plus something is not a lower bound for that set. And similarly, mu e is the least upper bound for the last set, second set, and therefore mu e minus something is not an upper bound, right? So what will you get in the first step? Mu e plus something is not a lower bound. So therefore you will get a v such that mu v is lower, right? So you will get a v such that mu v is less than mu e plus something. I'm choosing epsilon by 2. Agree? Yeah. Similarly, what will you get in the next step? There exists a k in that set such that mu e minus epsilon by 2 and mu k. What is the property? Mu e minus epsilon by 2 is not an upper bound. So mu e minus epsilon by 2 is less than mu k. Agree? Is not an upper bound. So there is a k which is bigger. Okay. Fine, no? So this much follows because E is in MF. And therefore, putting these two together, you have got a K and a V such that mu E is between mu V minus epsilon by 2 from here and mu K plus epsilon by 2 from here. All right. Okay, so mu E is between, so there exists V and K such that this happens, and this V and K will do the job. Mu V is finite. Why is that? This particular V, mu V is finite. Why?
Because E belongs to MF.
Yeah, therefore mu e is finite, and this is anyway a small number, so this is finite. So mu v is finite, and because mu v is finite, and let's continue. So v minus k is open, right? Because k is compact, so it's closed. So complement is open, and v intersection k complement that is open. So this is open, and therefore it belongs to MF. Why? Why?
MF is sigma algebra.
Huh?
MF is sigma algebra. So.
No, MF is not a sigma algebra or anything. MF is just some set that we have defined. Oh, but yes. Why open sets belong there?
Because its measure is finite.
No, we have not proved that. We have not proved that measure finite belongs to MF. It's one of the steps, but we have not proved that. No, there is nothing about Borel sigma algebra. MF, we haven't proved anything like that about MF. But I'm still saying open sets belong to MF. Why? We just recall the steps that we did last time. No, what was step 3?
Open sets are inner regular.
Inner regular, and in addition, mu v is finite. So both those conditions put together is what is called MF, right? What is MF?
Yes.
MF consists of finite measure sets which are also inner regular. And in step 3, we proved that open sets are inner regular. And in this line, we have shown that mu v is finite. Therefore, it belongs to MF. So basically step 3. And therefore, we can employ additivity in MF, which is step 4, right? We know additivity in MF, right? So that is step 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write V as disjoint union of K and V minus K. So what is mu K plus mu V minus K? Is equal to equal to
Mu V.
mu v. And mu v, what do we know from this slide? How did we choose this v? Mu v is less than, mu v is
mu plus
this
epsilon.
one, but finally from here, what can you say about mu v and mu k? Mu v is less than mu k plus, mu v is less than mu k
Epsilon by
Epsilon.
plus epsilon. So mu v is
Epsilon.
less than mu k plus epsilon. So this is less than this. So you can cancel mu k, no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because mu k is finite. Okay, so you can cancel that, therefore you got this. So sandwiching is done, right? So you showed that there is a k and a v such that the difference is small. Okay, so this is step 5. Step 6, I am calling it DUI. D is for difference, U is for union, and I is for intersection. All in MF. Okay. So what should be the statement? Can you guess? If A and B belong
Yes,
to MF, if A and B belong to MF, then
A minus B.
A minus B belongs to MF, A union B belongs to MF, and A intersection B belongs to MF. Okay. And I was curious whether DUI has any famous full form, and I googled, and DUI has a famous full form. Maybe mostly in the Western world, it is called driving under the influence. Do you know what that means? Driving under the influence. Influence of what? It's a punishable offense. So
drinking, I think.
yeah, must be, yeah, drinking or drugs or whatever. So that you are driving. Anyway, in India also it's not allowed, no? You cannot drink and drive, right? So you will see signs anyway. So that is step 6. Okay, so I hope now you will remember step 6. Okay. So it's union and intersection. So let A and B in MF. We will first show that A minus B belongs to MF. Okay, so let's do that. I first claim that we only need to show inner regularity. So MF has two components, no? Inner regularity and finite measure. Why only inner regularity is required? Why not finite measure?
Because
finite measure
monocyty.
is clear.
Monocyty is
Finite measure is automatic because A minus B is same as A intersection B complement. And in particular, it is contained in A and mu is monotone. And A has finite measure because A belongs to MF. So finiteness is obvious. That's why, we say that only need to show inner regularity. So let's show inner regularity. So by step 5, what is step 5? Just the previous step. What is that? Sandwiching, right? By step 5, we have got K1, V1, K2, V2 such that, can you complete the next sentence?
K1 is subset of A, subset of V1.
And K2 subset
K2
of V, set of V2 such that mu of V1 minus K1 is small, mu of V2 minus K2 is small. Agree? So this is from the previous step. Okay. Now what we are doing is we consider A minus B. Okay. So A minus B, A is contained in V1 and B contains K2. So A minus B is contained in V1 minus K2. You agree?
So repeat, sir.
Yes.
A is contained in V1 and B contains K2. So B complement is contained in K2 complement. So A minus B is contained in V1 minus K2. Correct? Here it is 1 and here it is 2.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now V1 minus K2 is, we are going to write it as union of 3 things, contained in union of 3 things. V1 minus K1, union K1 minus V2, union V2 minus K2. You can check, this is just set theory. Okay, so V1 minus K2, so K1 cancels, V2 cancels. I mean, I shouldn't use cancel, you have to check set theoretically, but you can check. So V1 minus K2 is contained in this, this. What is the advantage of writing it like this? What is the advantage of writing it like this?
We can use above hypothesis.
Yeah, we know V1 minus K1 and V2 minus K2 something. So using that by subadditivity, which is step 1, mu of A minus B is less than or equal to mu of K1 minus V2 plus epsilon. Agree? Is okay?
Yes.
What are we going to show? What do we have to show? We have to show
Inner
A minus B is inner regular, right? We have to show A minus B is inner regular. What does that mean? That means mu of A minus B is supremum of mu of compact sets contained in A minus B, right?
A minus B. A minus
But
B.
if a compact set is contained in A minus B, then of course mu of A minus B is an upper bound, right, by monotonicity. So the key point is mu of A minus B is the least upper bound. Mu of A minus B minus something is not an upper bound. That's what we need to show, right? Agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Because that it is an upper bound is obvious by monotonicity. So mu of A minus B minus something is not an upper bound. That means you have to exhibit a compact set contained in A minus B such that mu of that is bigger than mu of A minus B minus something. Minus anything, right? So epsilon is arbitrary, and here you have shown that mu of A minus B minus 2 epsilon. That is arbitrary, no? So mu of A minus B minus 2 epsilon is less than mu of K1 minus V2. So if K1 minus V2 is contained in A minus B, and if K1 minus V2 is compact, then you are done. You agree?
Yes.
You have to show that
Yes.
mu of A minus B minus something is not an upper bound, which means you have to exhibit a compact set contained in A minus B whose measure is bigger. So if K1 minus V2 might do the job, let's see K1 minus V2, is it contained in A minus B? Is K1 minus V2 a subset of A minus B? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
no,
sir.
because K1 is contained in A and V2 contains B, so V2 complement is contained in B complement. So K1 minus V2 is contained in A minus B is fine. So only question is it compact? K1 minus V2 is same as K1 intersection V2 complement. V2 is open, so V2 complement is closed. And therefore K1 is closed. Therefore K1 intersection V2 complement is closed. It's a closed subset of a compact set because it's contained in K1, which is
House
compact.
draft so compact.
Yeah, everything is housed off. So this is compact, right?
Yes.
So we have got a compact subset of A minus B with the required property, and therefore we are done. So since a compact set K1 minus V2 is in A minus B, mu of A minus B minus something is not a lower bound for that set, and that's all that we need to show. So we have shown this claim that the difference belongs to MF. Now that is good. Now the rest are easy because if you take A union B, I will write A union B as A minus B union B. That's correct, no? I have written it as a disjoint union. Okay. And we know that both A minus B and B are in MF. B is in MF is given and A minus B is in MF just because of the previous slide. Yeah. Now what will you do?
Yes.
You have to conclude
And
that, you have to conclude that A union B of course is finite measure, no? That's not a problem, right? By subadditivity.
yes, sir.
So you only have to show this is inner regular. But we don't have to, do all the work again because we can just write that we already know that in step 4, this is the last part of step 4. We know that if A and B are in MF, right? Disjoint union. So A minus B and B are in MF and this is a disjoint union. So we know that disjoint union belongs to MF provided it has finite measure. Agree? This was part of step 4.
Yes, sir.
So along with additivity, we showed that MF is closed under countable disjoint unions, provided the union has finite measure. So that applies, no? Because this is a disjoint union and union has finite measure.
Yes.
And A minus B belongs to MF, B belongs to MF. Therefore, the union belongs to MF. So A union B belongs to MF. Okay. Now what is remaining? DUI intersection, A intersection B. So A intersection B is also easy. Observe that A intersection B can be written as A minus B. Just check set theory. Okay. If you do like that, then it's done, no? Because A and B are in MF, and we have shown that A minus B is in MF. Now A minus B is in MF and A is in MF, and the difference is again in MF. Therefore, this is in MF. Is that okay?
Yes.
The difference is in
Yes,
MF you have applied twice. First here, and then for this and this together. So A intersection B is also this. So this is DUI. So just remember that you had first three steps: sub-additivity, compact sets, open sets. So these were some general statements. And the next three steps, 4, 5, and 6, additivity, sandwiching, and DUI, the next three steps are only on MF. All these steps are about MF. So this is, one thing to remember about the proof. Okay, so next three steps are about MF. And now we go to step 7. Step 7 is M is a sigma algebra and M contains B. Okay. So we are making good progress. Now we are claiming that it's a sigma algebra and it contains the Borel sigma algebra. So do you remember what sigma algebra is? What all we need to show? We need to show that the full set belongs there. Then if A is there, then A complement is there. And if AI are there, then the union of AI are also there. So first we are going to show that if something is there, its complement is there. So if A is in M, then X minus A belongs to M. So how do we show all these things? What is the definition of M? What is the definition of M?
all those subset of X such that intersection with compact set belongs to MF.
MF. So it's in terms of MF. So fix an arbitrary compact set. So recall M is defined in terms of MF via intersection with compact set. So take an arbitrary compact set and you will have to look at X minus A intersection K, right? You are interested in showing that A complement belongs to M. So you have to look at A complement intersection K. So we need to show that this belongs to MF. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we will look at that. So X minus A intersection K, we are going to write it as K minus A intersection K. So it's set theory. Just check that this is true. So on the left hand side, something is in K and it belongs to K, and it is also outside A and it is outside A. So this is same as this. Okay. So now can we apply the previous step, DUI step? A is in M, right? Therefore, what do you know about A intersection K? K is an arbitrary compact set. What do you know about A intersection K?
MF.
It belongs to MF. And is it true that K also belongs to MF? Any compact set belongs to MF? Yes, because
Yes.
finite measure we have already proved in step 2. And K is inner regular is obvious, right? Because compact sets are inner regular by the very definition, right? Because inner regularity is in terms of compact sets contained inside that. So compact sets are automatically inner regular, just like open sets are automatically outer regular. Yeah. So now, therefore, K belongs to MF. A intersection K also belongs to MF. Therefore, this belongs to MF, no? Because difference belongs to MF. Difference of two things in MF belongs to MF. Okay, so that's all that we need to show, right? This part is clear. So if A belongs there, then X minus A belongs there. Next step is if AI belongs there, then we have to show that the union belongs there. Okay, so this also easy. What we will do is K is arbitrary compact set, and we will have to look at A intersection K. Okay, but in order to apply one of these other steps, see, we have to show something belongs to MF. But what do you know about union belonging to MF? What result do we have from all the steps that we have done? Union belonging to MF, you know, in step 4 only, no? So what were the conditions? If EIs are in MF, then union EI is in MF provided it has finite measure and also EIs are disjoint. So disjoint is important. For that purpose, we will not work with this union, but we will write it as a disjoint union of members of MF. Okay. So we are going to do this. B1, I will take A1 intersection K. B2, I will take A2 intersection K and I will remove B1 so that B1 and B2 are disjoint and continue this step. So Bn is AN intersection K minus B1 etc. union Bn minus 1. So all these are disjoint, no?
Yes.
And what is union of Bi as n goes to infinity? What is union of Bn?
Same as union of AI, like A.
Union of
intersection
AI?
K.
AI
Intersection K.
Intersection.
Intersection K. A intersection K. So they are disjoint and they all belong to MF. Why? All these B1, B2, etc. are in MF. Why? Because A1 is in M. So A1 intersection K belongs to MF by definition, right? Similarly, A2
Yes.
intersection K belongs to MF. And we already shown that B1 belongs to MF. This is difference of two things in MF. So that belongs to MF. What about this step? You know, at this point, you know that B1, Bn minus 1 are in MF. So is this union in MF?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Why?
Finite union because
Yeah, therefore it will have finite measure and it's a disjoint union. So step 4 last line will apply, right? So this also belongs to MF and AN intersection K belongs to MF. This is the difference and difference of two things in MF belongs to MF. So all the BNs are in MF and BNs are disjoint and you observe that A intersection K is union BI. Correct? Now, now that's enough, no, to show that A belongs to M? Because you have to show that A intersection K belongs to MF, right? But A intersection K is this union. So this is a disjoint union BI. And so disjointness is already there. So if you know that this has finite measure, then you are done. Then this belongs to MF. So the question is, does A intersection K has finite measure? A intersection K, mu of A intersection K is finite. Is that true? Then we are done.
yes, sir.
Because it
Subset
is
of
contained in
K
K
is compact.
and K has finite measure and mu is monotone. So A intersection K has finite measure. So this belongs to MF. Okay. So that means A belongs to M because K was arbitrary compact. So that's also fine. Now we have to show that the full set belongs there, right? Full X belongs there, but we are going to show more generally that any closed set belongs there. So in particular, the full set is a closed set. Okay, so if C is any closed set, then you agree C intersection K is arbitrary compact set. So C intersection K is compact, no?
Yes.
The closed subset of a compact set, so it's compact, and thus it belongs to MF. Because C intersection K belongs to MF, right? Because compact sets are in MF. So that means C belongs to M, no? Because intersection with an arbitrary compact set belongs to MF. So what have you shown? You've shown that this collection M contains all the closed sets. In particular, it contains X. Have we proved that M contains B? So already you have proved that M is a sigma algebra. So have we already proved that M contains Borel sets?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Because it's closed under complement and closed sets
Yes.
are there.
Closed sets are there. So all open sets are there. So M contains all open sets, and why M contains B? You have shown that M contains all the open sets, but why all the Borel sets?
Because it's a sigma algebra and B is a smallest sigma algebra containing
So
open
B is
sets.
the smallest sigma algebra containing all the open sets. Therefore, we have also shown that M contains B. Okay. Is that argument clear? Because you have shown that M is a sigma algebra. You have shown that M contains all the closed sets. Therefore, M contains all the open sets. And B is the smallest sigma algebra containing all the open sets. Therefore, M contains B. Okay. So step 7 is done. And step 8 is, again, you are connecting M and MF in a very nice fashion. So I'm calling it characterization of MF. Okay. So MF is nothing but all those sets in M. M is defined in terms of MF, right? M is all those sets whose intersection with arbitrary compact sets belong to MF. Now we are working out the other way. MF is nothing but all those sets in M with finite measure. Okay. So you have to show two containments. LHS is contained in RHS and RHS is contained in LHS. Okay, so step 8 is characterization, and it's a nice characterization, right? You have M and MF, and this also tells you why F, why the notation F for finite. MF is precisely all those sets of M with finite measure. So let's show this. So MF is contained in M, we have to show. So let's think about it. If you take something in MF, I have to show that it belongs to M. So take a set in MF. Suppose E belongs to MF. Then it is given to you that mu E is finite, right? That was part of the definition of MF. So mu E is finite is clear, right? Now what do you have to show? You have to show E belongs to M. But what is the definition of M? E intersection K belongs to MF, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So what you have to show is if E belongs to MF, E intersection any compact set also belongs to MF. Is that correct? Is that statement correct? If E belongs to MF, then E intersection K belongs to MF. Why is that true?
Yes, sir, because there are two elements of MF, E and K.
Because E is in MF is given to you and K is compact, therefore that also belongs to MF. So it's an intersection of two sets in MF, and we have DUI step 6. So therefore E intersection K belongs to MF, which means E belongs to M. So we have proved MF is contained in M, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is done. So if E is in M and K is compact, then this belongs to MF because K belongs to MF by step 2. Yeah, K belongs to MF by step 2. Yes, we know that. And DUI, which is step 6. In the other direction, you have to take E in M with finite measure, and then what do you need to show? So finite measure is already given to you. What extra you have to show? You have to show that E is
Inner regular.
Inner regular.
You have to show E is inner regular. So you have to show E is inner regular. Keep that in mind. And what we know is mu E is, this is the definition of mu E anyway. Mu is defined using outer regularity, and therefore there exists an open set with mu V is finite. You agree with this?
Yes, because mu is finite.
Because mu E is finite. So if all open sets containing E had measure infinite, then the infimum would have been infinite. But that is not true. So because mu E is finite, there is an open set such that mu V is finite. Now I am going to apply. Yeah, mu V is finite and V is open, right? V is open and therefore V is inner regular. By which step?
Open sets are irregular.
Yeah, that was step 3. Okay, so open sets are inner regular, step 3. So V itself is inner regular and V has finite measure also. So V belongs to this particular V that you have got here. There exists V. This particular V belongs to MF, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Particular V belongs to MF. Now we will apply sandwiching. Sandwiching says what? Given any set in MF, you can sandwich it between an open set and a compact set, right? So if you apply that to V itself, because V belongs to MF, what will you get? You will get an open set containing V. You can take V itself. No, if some open set will work, any smaller open set will work because that will only reduce the size. So in particular, you will get that V contains a compact set such that mu of V minus K is arbitrarily small. Agree?
Yes, yes.
By sandwiching. Sandwiching you are applying to V itself. Okay. So since open sets are inner regular, V is an MF and we can apply sandwiching to V itself. And if you pick any epsilon, I will get a K contained in V such that mu of V minus K is less than epsilon. Agree?
Yes.
What do I want to show? I want to show that E belongs to MF, right? And E has finite measure, so I have to show E is inner regular. That means mu E is the supremum of mu K, right? K contained in E, right?
Yes, sir.
But as we said earlier, that it is an upper bound is just monotonicity. So the whole point is to show that mu e minus epsilon is not an upper bound for compact sets contained in E. That's what we need to show, right? That's what we are going to show. So this much we have got, and E is in M, therefore E intersection K is in MF. This step we have used. No, this is the definition of M. For arbitrary compact K, the intersection belongs to MF, and I am applying it to this compact set that we have chosen here. You have got a K, and if you intersect with E intersection K is in MF, and by inner regularity for E intersection K, right? Because E intersection K is in MF, it is inner regular. So mu of E intersection K is supremum of mu H contained in E intersection K and H compact, and epsilon is arbitrary. And because mu intersection K is the supremum, least upper bound, mu intersection K minus something is not an upper bound for this set. So what will you get? You will get an H contained in E intersection K compact such that mu of E intersection K minus epsilon and mu H, what will be the relationship? This is not an upper bound. So this is less than mu H, right? Agree?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this you have got, and now we can finish the proof. Now we can finish the proof. How? We want to show that E is inner regular. So mu E minus something, you want to get something contained in E such that mu E minus epsilon is less than that. So that we are going to finish like this. E is contained in E intersection K union V minus K. Okay. Correct, no? E is contained in. So if if element here belongs to K, then of course it belongs here. If it is outside K, then of course it belongs here because E is contained in V. E is contained in V, right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes.
E is contained in V. So therefore you have this, and mu of V minus K, what do you know? Is less than epsilon. And mu of E intersection K is less than mu H plus epsilon. So mu E by subadditivity is less than or equal to mu of E intersection K plus this, which is less than mu H plus 2 epsilon. Agree? Mu of E intersection K is less than mu H plus epsilon, and this is less than epsilon. Okay? This is
Yes.
enough. This is enough because you
H
have
is
got that
compact.
mu E minus something is less than mu H, where H is contained in E and H is compact. So that shows that E is inner regular. Right? Mu E is supremum of mu H, H contained in E is what you have to show. H is contained in E, H is compact, and you have shown that mu E minus something is less than mu H. So mu E minus something is not an upper bound. So mu E is the least upper bound for compact sets contained in E. Is that step clear?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
so mu E minus something is not an upper bound for this set, and it follows that this is the supremum. Okay. So thus E belongs to MF. So we have shown both sides, no? Now the last step for today, so maybe we are finishing ahead of time. Last step for today, I'm recalling it as one line. Okay, that's my nickname. What does that mean? The proof is one line. And what is the claim? Claim is mu is a measure. On this sigma algebra, mu is a measure. Mu is a positive measure. Mu defined on M2 0 to infinity. Right? Mu we have defined on the power set, no? On any set subset of X, mu is defined. Only problem is we may not be able to show additivity there. Now we are claiming that on M you have additivity. That's all that you need, right? On disjoint union you have additivity. But
Sir,
can you?
how we can guess that there will be a problem on severability on the whole set?
That you may have to give some counter example or something.
Oh,
Okay. So I have not dealt with that, but on the full set, you don't expect it. So you can give a counter example. The mu that you have defined. Okay, so that's a good exercise for all of you. On the power set, so you take one particular x that you have, take x to be real numbers or something, and show that, on the power set, it will not be additive. It should be easy.
okay.
So you will have to restrict for sure by giving some simple counter example. And we have restricted in this fashion. And as I gave the link to that stack exchange thing based on Krishna's question, maybe there's another way to construct M. Maybe some subalgebra will also work, but this M will work. And our claim is mu is a measure on this M. Can you finish the proof? Because the title says one line. From all the steps that we have done, it's obvious, it's automatic. So let us see. So what will you give me first? In order, what do we have to do? You will give me a collection EI, which are pairwise disjoint, right? EI belongs
Yes.
to M, which are pairwise disjoint, and I should consider the collection. I should consider the union of EI, no?
Yes.
And I should look at mu of union of EI, and I should say that it is summation mu EI, right?
Correct. Yes.
Now suppose one of the EI has infinite measure.
Then true.
Suppose one of the EI, mu of EI is infinite. Okay. Then is it true that the union EI will also mu be infinite?
Yes, sir.
Because of monotonicity. Right? So on the left hand side, you have mu of union, which is infinite. On the right hand side, you have summation of mu of EI. That's also infinite because one of them is infinite. Agree?
Yes.
So you will get infinity equal to infinity, which is fine. So in that case, it's proved. So suppose all the EIs are finite. If all the EIs are finite, the union, what can be the measure? It may be infinite or it may be finite, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Suppose it is infinite, then also we are done, no? If union is infinite and if all the mu EIs are finite, in fact, I don't need to argue twice, forget EIs being finite or infinite. If mu of E is infinite, anyway, we are done, no? Because you know that mu of E is less than or equal to summation mu EI from step 1. So if the left hand side is infinite, then it has to be an equality, right? Infinity less than or equal to something, meaning infinity equal to infinity only, no?
Yes.
So I don't have to worry whether mu EI is finite or infinite right now. If mu E is infinite, then we are done. Therefore, assume that mu E is finite. But if mu E is finite, then all the EIs also will have finite measure, no?
Yes.
By
Yes.
monotonicity. So if EIs have finite measure and you are saying E also has finite, E is a union. You are saying E also has finite measure. So what do you know from step 4? No, step 8. Last step, characterization. E has finite measure, EI also have finite measure. Therefore, EI belong to? EIs are in M and EIs have finite measure. Therefore, by the characterization step, EI belong to?
MF.
MF. And E also belongs to MF. Because E also has finite measure.
Yes.
And therefore, which step will you apply?
Fourth
Additivity.
step.
Step 4.
Additivity.
Step
on
4
MF.
last line. Step 4 last line. Additivity is true. No, not last line. Step 4, the real additivity. Because you know that E belongs to MF and EI belong to MF. And in MF, you have additivity, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And therefore, additivity is shown. So mu is a measure. So this follows by countable additivity and the characterization of MF. By arguing with that infinite case, you argue separately. So it's basically one line proof. Okay. So what is step 10? Step 10 is to show that lambda is given by lambda is represented by mu. No, which way do we say lambda is represented by mu or mu is represented by lambda? Lambda is given to us and lambda is represented by mu, the measure that we have constructed. This is the last step and this we will do in the next class. Okay, so I think today we are ending. Are we ending ahead of time or much ahead of time? I could have easily done the last step, but I did not type it, so let's stop here. Okay, so I will stop sharing. Any quick question or comment? We can also stop recording, no? And then we can talk a little bit. So let me also stop recording.